So Krystal, host of The Rising, has quickly become one of my favorite shows. And it's The Rising with Krystal and the other guy. No slight to the other guy, I just can't think of his name. But for me, she tends to be the mainstay of the show. Extremely bright, yes, of course, also attractive, but she does an amazing job on that particular show. It's funny, when she was on MSNBC, it was kind of hard to entirely see the individual, the character of the person doesn't entirely show through the corporate structure that they have on that network. Not to mention, she said once before that MSNBC, after a story she did, was like, yeah, we need monitors to make get these stories approved. But on the Hill, it's hers. She speaks her piece, or at the very least, that's the way it comes across. She has a certain degree of freedom, and in the context of that freedom, you get to see who she is and how she thinks. And while it's not necessarily a dramatic departure from what she was on MSNBC, it is a departure. At least I think it is. A welcome one, by the way. Every so often, she would have various guests on her show. And those guests would be on her show and they would say something that is off the reservation, just outright propagandist, pushing very specific objectives that oftentimes are not tethered to reality. There's a gentleman with glasses that's on the show, and there's another guy that's a Republican that's on the show. Inevitably, I'm looking at the screen and be like, oh, that's bullshit. But I don't have to wait long, because as they do a wide shot, you can see Krystal looking. She's looking, and you know what's going to happen. She's going to get in their ass the moment the person stops talking. And sometimes it's not even before they stop talking. It's just like, what you just said there was outright ludicrous, but I'm going to be pleasant in the way that I get across that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I've grown to love that show. So how interesting was it to see her on CNN? Now, CNN, the network that outright bias in regards to Sanders, you can look at the debate performance in regards to the way CNN behaved in that debate. Hey, the Ayatollah wants to get people out of Iran. You want to get people, out of the Middle East. You want to get people out of the Middle East too. Fucking kidding me? What I do from the standpoint of foreign policy is what I think is in the best interest of this country. If that just so happens to dovetail, why do I care? That's not necessarily my priority. My priority is America and what is in this best interest. Hitler likes dogs. You like dogs, right? For fuck's sake. My point is, her being on CNN, you can imagine that this is A, welcome, B, infinitely curious on how it's going to go, especially since the person they had opposing her was Karen Finney, effectively a DNC operative who CNN hired. Now, no, she doesn't currently work for the DNC, but does she have any points of view that diverge from the DNC at all? I would be hard pressed to believe it if she did. CNN hired her, and she does a damn good job pushing the agenda of the Democratic Party while she's on that network. That said, Krystal is opposing her in this, and they're having a conversation about Sanders. She gives a 2-minute truth bomb. And during this 2-minute truth bomb, Finney can be heard screaming in the background that something Ball is saying is wrong. It's not Krystal that's wrong. You are wrong. You are wrong. Finney apologized for being loud and wrong, and then took back her apology when somebody in the audience tried to help her out with her facts, and to some degree also got it wrong. Welcome to a late night, after work, blurry-eyed soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Before I start, pop reality. That clip was so satisfying. Facts thrown at CNN. To put it in perspective, you realize CNN is a network that gets a tip, an anonymous tip, multiple anonymous tips, that supposedly Sanders said a woman couldn't win. Sanders comes out and says, I never said that. Now, the catch here is Sanders rarely calls anything a lie. It's unless he's talking about Trump. But in this very specific point, they came out and said this didn't happen. This wasn't true. Very clear. This wasn't true. CNN, again, because this tip was thrown to CNN stays with this story. There are only two people in the room, Sanders and Warren. One person said it didn't happen. The other person said it did. And CNN immediately takes the person's side who said it did, missing the point that the person who said it did has issues with honesty in general. In general. At the debate on CNN, what did they do? Sanders, did you say it? Sanders goes in a long thing making the point. It would be insane for me to believe that a woman couldn't win. I believe the woman could win 30 years ago. You can go back and look at the clips. I tried to get her to run in 2015. She wouldn't do it. Only after she wouldn't do it that I run. And you're trying to convince people that despite all of what I just told you, trying to get her to run in 2015, going back 30 years, thinking that a woman could win, mind you, way in advance of most anybody else believing such. Clinton got 3 million votes. And you're trying to tell me that when Elizabeth Warren is coming to me effectively saying, I'm running for president, the entire point of that is so I wouldn't run because I tried to get her to go in 2015. Well, too late. I created the space. I'm going to take it to fruition. But you believe that it makes sense to say, I'm running for president. A woman can't win. I'm going to get some coffee. You want anything else? And this doesn't come to fruition. This doesn't come into issue at all until like 3 weeks before Iowa. Do you realize CNN ran a poll? The poll had Bernie Sanders leading. However, they didn't use Bernie Sanders' name. They put Bernie Sanders in the other column having the higher number. When I said it's a biased network, it is a biased network. So it was a beautiful thing. On a network that typically just smears and slanders Sanders, to have somebody who is actual champion of this and won't necessarily be timid in making their points. Krystal Ball,
if you look at the numbers,
take it away.
Throughout this campaign, he's consistently been the most popular candidate in terms of favorability, obviously has this massive grassroots base, the most fundraising numbers. And if you ask voters, not just in this poll, but consistently across polls, who they trust most on the issues that matter most to them, Bernie Sanders comes out on top. So honestly, I think if there hadn't been this relentless narrative against him for years that he was unelectable, he would be running away with this thing. I also think that the Warren attack on him, trying to smear him as a secret sexist or whatever she was trying to say about him, completely backfired, and he appeared above the fray. He also appears above the fray as Biden tries to attack him and wrongly accuses him of putting out a doctored video.
What, Finney? What? What's with the micro expression? What's with the micro expression? The micro rage that's just seething under her shirt. What the fuck is she talking about? She's a goddamn Bernie bro. But up to this point, no intrusions by Finney, which means I'm going to accept that what Ball is saying there is true, because in the other situation where Finney thought she had Krystal Ball on something, she had no issue with screaming into the, that's not true. Let's keep going. You'll see what I mean. But everything Krystal Ball has just said there is flat fact true. When I say trends matter and trends are important, they are. And what she just said there were trends, not any specific individual poll, but trends. Trends matter. Let's keep going.
All of those things have only served ultimately to strengthen him. Like, nobody likes him. I mean, are we in junior high? But second of all, especially with this poll coming out, look how out of touch this looks. And this is, I think, a failure that a lot of DC has had, which has made them underestimate Bernie Sanders. Yeah, if you listen to cable news all day, if you just hang out in this town, you're going to think nobody likes Bernie Sanders. But again, the polls consistently show he is actually the most popular candidate in the race. New rankings came out. He's the most popular senator in the entire country. So
that's
part
not
of
true.
why
That's so
that literally came out last week.
All right, you injected. That's not true, Krystal. But before we get to that part, can we at least accept that everything that she said up to that point is true? You had no issue interrupting on that point. You didn't interrupt on the other points, with the exception of the micro expressions that were going on. So fair enough. Discrepancy. Let's let her finish, though, and before we go back to the discrepancy.
Morning Consult polling ranked him as the #1 most popular senator in the entire country. But second of all, why do people like him so much? It's precisely because DC hates him. People hate DC. The fact that he didn't come here to make friends, that he came here to stand up for the working class, is precisely why he is so consistently popular across polls.
And Krystal, why haven't you endorsed him in 2020?
Well, I mean, I work for The Hill. I like all of the anti-establishment candidates, and so I'm staying out in terms of putting out an endorsement. But, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I like Bernie. I like his focus on the working class. I think that's exactly what we do need to bring the country together. And by the way, worth noting with all this, like, Bernie bro narrative that's arising, it's really ugly to sort of invisibilize his supporters of color. And in the CNN poll, he leads Joe Biden.
Yes! Yes! It is sexist and racist to do that. You may not get that, but when Finney is out there screaming at the height of her lungs, talking about Bernie bros, he hates women, saying stupid shit like that, when most of his support in some of these states are women. They're women. So, bro, kind of like, somebody saying imminent. Trump says, hey, there's an imminent attack planned on the United States. Pompeo comes back and says, it's imminent, but we don't know when. If it's imminent is a temporal value, meaning the fact that you're saying it's imminent, it means in a very close span of time, something is going to happen. To say we don't know when completely neuters the first thing that you said. If you're calling people Bernie bros, bro in and of itself has a connotation of a frat boy or frat guy. Boy, guy, man, whatever. Let's just be very clear that the gender has a penis. How does that coincide when a large share of the support are women and people of color? In fact, he's the candidate with the most support from people of color. Not to mention, again, in many of these states, women. Leads with women, meaning larger support base in many of these states. Pretending like they don't exist. Putting out this narrative, this propaganda in order to, or this political psyop of sorts. Kind of what they did to Trump. If you can tarnish somebody with a particular image, it creates a headwind with people voting for that person. That's all it is. Trump is sexist, racist, bigot, all that stuff. The catch is, in Trump's case, it just so happens to be true. But it also is true that it's a headwind that you try to put up to get people to not vote for that person. Tom Perez, go back and look at the letter Tom Perez sent. Tom Perez sent a letter saying we're going to make Bernie Sanders the white candidate. Now think about how racist that is. This is a person of Hispanic descent, Perez, trying to get somebody and say, we're going to use racist language to tar that individual to try to make people believe that only white people support him. So people of color will consider him to be somewhat radioactive. Go back and look at the letter. My point is, Bernie bro is the exact same thing. The only difference here is it's pretending as if all of these women that support him just don't exist. Yes, invisibilizing, if that's a word. Let's put that in the dictionary. Let's keep going. I'm going to go back and let her repeat it.
What we do need to bring the country together. And by the way, worth noting with all this like Bernie bro narrative that's arising, it's really ugly to sort of invisibilize his supporters of color. And in the CNN poll, he leads Joe Biden among people of color. So I think we need to put this whole Bernie bro narrative to bed too.
The Bernie bro thing is a little weird. I thought she was going with that, saying you're going to invisibilize women. The people of color thing, I don't know how that fits in the context of bro. Maybe she just misunderstood or misspoke. Finney was like, whoa. The catch here is Finney has been caught screaming on CNN Bernie bro nonsense. CNN is also the network that allowed the smearing and the attacking of Gabbard as a Russian asset by people who they brought on with zero pushback. So, minor faux pas, I think, because I don't necessarily think the Bernie bro thing is specific to whites. I mean, at least I didn't take it that way. I took it as being more specific to men, especially when it's being used in the context of he's sexist, the whole bro thing, like Obama boys, for example, when Clinton was running with that. Nevertheless, the discrepancy. Is Bernie Sanders indeed the most popular? I mean, that was essentially the thing that Finney had issue with. She seemed to could not contain herself. Those micro expressions just was screaming, no, that's not true, Krystal. Here's the catch. Krystal Finney sent an apology saying, you know what? Fair enough. You're right. I did my check, and you're right. Sanders indeed is the most popular. Then she deleted that. Petty much, and then puts out essentially this right here, doubling down. Actually, Sean King and Krystal Ball, let's tell the whole truth. The poll Krystal cited measures popularity in their home state, not nationally, providing an in-depth look at how all 100 U.S. senators stand within the voters of their own state. Now, she didn't know this before. One of their Twitter followers told her this. Fair enough. However you find it, you find it. Is it true, though? Is it true? Morning Consult. Right here. Right here. The 10 most popular and unpopular senators. But first, let's start here. In the race. Bernie Sanders, yes, he's the most popular in the race. That number was 75 last time on the 14th, even when he has dropped slightly, still above everyone else as the most popular senator. She said that. I don't think there was pushback on that. Right here. The 10 most popular and unpopular senators. Bernie Sanders, number 1, 65%. Who's at the bottom? I think Warren is at the bottom somewhere. Like, she's really low down on this list. But that's somewhat of a moot point. It, for whatever reason, just makes me feel better about myself. But that said, number 1. Now, Finney's point is, look, that's only for the senators of a particular state. Meaning, this is Sanders being the most popular of this particular state, so we can't necessarily say that he's the most popular entirely across the country. Meaning, if everyone was in a contest and you lined everybody up, would he be at the top of the heap? Well, the fact that he's running for president of the United States and the fact that he's the highest ranked favorable person in that particular race, number 1 in CNN's own poll, it makes me think that more likely than not, she's probably right in the popularity standpoint. But let's add a little bit more research to it. What about this? This is, where is it? All right, so this is Newsweek. At least it was Newsweek. Here we are. Newsweek. I think I showed this yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Bernie Sanders is the most popular U.S. politician, even as some blame him for Clinton's loss. Even as some blame him. What about this one? Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in America, the poll finds. I could even go and find you the Gallup poll that I showed the other day that says the exact same thing. Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician. I think that was taken in 2019. I guess my point is, whether Krystal Ball got the exact poll right in order to make that case is almost secondary to whether or not the case is true. The fact of the matter is, Finney was yelling and had no idea whether it was true or not. If she did know it was true, she wouldn't have put out the apology after the fact. And then double it. All right, somebody gave me some little information that I now can use to say you guys are wrong. The problem is, check further. You're still wrong. Even if Krystal Ball doesn't get the exact poll to make her entirety of her point still remains, just so happens to be true. And again, there's several of these. This is not just 1 or 2. There's several of them. But you should have even known that. Just at the very least, accept that it could be true just based on what has taken place in the context of this election. It just hurt you to your heart to believe that that could have been true. Oh, it just killed you to believe that's true. It just hurts. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. I fucking love it. Glad that it hurts. Krystal, keep doing you, boo. Keep kicking ass. Keep kicking ass. And by the way, you were right, Krystal. Whether or not the exact poll is right, you were right. The clip was so satisfying. Facts thrown at CNN. Pop reality. I find myself watching Rising more than TYT. I don't watch TYT. Rising, I found myself watching. It's funny. I've I go through these fits and starts where I vacillate between reading, like audiobooks and those type of things, versus news. I often don't get the opportunity to watch other people's shows, Rising being one of the exceptions. Oftentimes the clips are somewhat small, her opinions and everything else, they put it in these kind of concise ways. And even when I disagree with her, I at the very least understand where she's coming from. And so I find myself really liking the show. So I can't complain. Not to mention, I love it when she goes on CNN, goes into the heart of the lion's den and just brings the hammer. Krystal needs to go in The View. Richard Williams, oh, you're looking for a brawl. You're looking for a brawl. Did you see Picard? So Picard is on now. Picard, Patrick Stewart goes on The View. And you know, Whoopi Goldberg, she's gone off the reservation in reality, but as Guinan, she was an amazingly fascinating character. And she was a character in a way that they left open. Meaning, you had no idea what the fuck Guinan was. If you remember when Q and these two met, Guinan, for one, her lifespan is extraordinarily long, clearly. But on that, she also has this kind of cosmic awareness of sorts. When reality shifted, she knew that reality was off. Think about that shit. Because we're looking at a scene, just a very specific scene, where reality, bam, shifts. When did Guinan know that reality was off? Think about that. Think about that. When did she know? Meaning, Jean-Luc Picard, from his standpoint, from his point of view, he grew up and went to bed every night for the entirety of his life in that new reality. He doesn't know that there's any difference in reality because for him, for all intents and purposes, all of them are the same. Him as a human being may have certain things that he prefers in a reality or the other, but for all intents and purposes, from reality's standpoint, doesn't care. If Earth blinks out of existence tomorrow, the universe would not weep one iota, meaning it's all fair game. Picard does not have any awareness of that because every moment that he's ever remembered is in that new reality. How does Guinan escape that? Like, it's a fucking fascinating character. Picard asks her to come back on for the second season, saying, look, the second season of Picard, we'd love to have you back. I gotta be honest, I'd love to see her back too. I'd love to see her back too. Even though Whoopi Goldberg has gotten on my goddamn nerves in this election season. Jay Wood, she should choose the sexiest route, but typically, when I heard about it, they now, wait, let me read that one more time. She should choose, all right, she should choose the sexiest route, but typically, when I heard about it, they used the straight white male line. Oh, I see. You need to set up a call-in system or something. H ain't made of money. Oh, well, look, on the radio show, we will have call-ins. That show will go from 12 to 2, I'm sorry. And call-ins are welcomed. In fact, they're encouraged. So, not to mention, there's a section of the show, one of the segments called Come At Me Bro, which would essentially allow somebody to try to take the piss out of me on a particular topic of their interest. So, you're going to get your wish. 12 to 2, Monday through Friday. I'm trying to get them to allow me to use our dry runs. So dry runs are effectively when it's like you're doing a trial run of the show. Now, this has only been like 3 days. So the fact that we're jumping the dry runs is pretty fast. Apparently they feel we can pull it off. But I would love for the dry runs to be aired so you guys can see what it's like to essentially start a radio show. All of this stuff is phenomenally new to me. My co-host has been a producer for a while, but I don't think he's been a host. And so I think I'm probably the newest one of all of them. And so it'll be fascinating to see how all of this stuff gets all the ground, like choosing the images, the sound, all that stuff, the kind of behind the scenes of the show. I think that would be badass for the dry runs, but that one's not up to me. That said, though, you're going to get your wish. The call-ins are welcome. Every show that we do is going to be run live through my channel. So feel free to call. Feel free to join 12 to 2, Monday to Friday. You're going to get your wish. All right, I'm going to end this because there are a slew of stories and it's almost 9 o'clock already. So it was a long day at work. Like, share, subscribe, and Krystal, Keep bringing the heat. Thanks all.